Yeah, man. It's on my stick today. Got 2 cameras on my stick. My stilo. Stick. Yes. The steel, the stick. Get it? Shorts up. And what am I doing here? I'm charging my battery on this phone. Oh, I had to take it off the stick because when I have it on the stick, it's not allowing me to put the battery charger on it. So I have to take it off and give this view right now. But yeah, just another day coming from the gym. If you guys heard that story on the last video had Magdalena her about kales and cabbages and shit. I think Magdalena is from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, guys. You know where the Austro-Hungarian Empire is? Austria was the heart of it, so that's still there. But it was pretty much Austria, Germany, Hungary, Serbia, all those countries together made the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So I'm gonna study some more of that today. I eat my kale and eat grapes. That's all I need. No mistakes. These things, they grow in California state. These things, they grow. They make me great. Simple, easy rhyme to stick in my mind. Simple, easy rhyme. I say it all the time. Guys, Yeah, man. I think President Trump is a good guy. Obama is a good guy. Bush is a good guy. All of these people are good. The problem is that you can't do everything that everyone wants. You can't please the Democrats and please the core Republicans, or please the core Republicans and please the Democrats, right? So what you need to do is to choose a side. You gotta choose a side. And when you choose a side, then that's where some people beg to differ, because the sides are from two different aspects. They differ. Choose a side. Yeah, man. So we're the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yeah. Latter-day Saints. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, guys. Not yesterday's saints, Latter-day. Not present day. This is what I just have this up so it looks legit, guys. But I'm a little filming with the one down here. But I keep. Yeah, guys, I keep. This one on the stick is better. The one in my hands, no one could see, so it's hard to maneuver. But the one on the stick, you know, one on the stick, I could, move it around, do this shit with it. Ooh. See, all the way out here. Yeah. Hey guys. Just met the most beautiful Hungarian, Austrian, blonde grandma. Beautiful lady with wrinkles. Yeah, guys. Just saying that because you don't need plastic surgery and Botox and this stuff. I'm telling you. I say that every day, and I meet these people every day. Beautiful, beautiful lady with wrinkles, man. Because it's not about looking like you're a 25-year-old when you already experienced life and you have stories. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Why are you trying to? You don't get younger men or older men by having a smooth face. You get it by having a beautiful body and a beautiful character. And if you're old and you have a good body for your age, then that's what it is. Nobody cares. Some 50-year-old women have better bodies than 20 and 30-year-old women. And they're killing the game. That's it. Shoot, we want them. And then if the girls who are beautiful bodies, then boom, you're already young, you have a beautiful body, you're killing the game. Boom, we want you. That's how it works, guys. But you don't have to do Botox and all that stuff. Those are out. Those are played out now. What we like is real. It's like this, right? Guys coming around with fake Rolex watches. Yeah, we look flashy and all that nice stuff. We're in it, right? Fake Rolex watches, and fake name brand shoes and all that, right? To make you think we're rich, right? I don't know, guys. Fake Jordans. I really fake Balenciagas. Whatever it is that people want, Got that stuff fake. So a girl with a fake ass should date a guy with a fake shoes. We're a guy with a fake Rolex, date the guy with the fake Jordans, the fake ass and fake face, or you want a guy with a real Rolex? No. It took real hard work and money. You know what I'm saying? Date the dude with a fake Rolex. Because your ass and your face is fake. I'm sorry, girls. I love you. I love both of you, but I'm just saying. If you're like that, you can't be holding your thing high for me with my... I'm going to give you a fake Rolex for your, what do you call it? For anniversary. Why? Because your ass is fake. Who cares? It looks nice. Dude, you'll still look nice. With a fake rollie on, you look nice. Your butt looks nice. It's all fake. It matches each other. Girl with a real butt, you got a real rollie. May have less diamonds, but it's real, you know? That's how it works. Bud drum. October what, guys? Today's the what? 21st, 22nd. What is it today? What is today? Catch it real quick. Yeah, guys. It's right here, man. I'm not even asking anyone to invest with me or anything. Bodrum, guys. Bodrum. Somewhere on that other side. Sweetest girls go to that place. I want to build that shit in Belize. Bodrum, all those sexy, sweet places like that in Europe and Bali and shit. I want to make Belize like that. I want every hood in Belize to fucking look like a resort, guys. Fuck fucking all that shit. We need to just rebuild everything for the people. Dude, let me fucking get all the resources in Belize, all the land, all that shit. I'll build and I'll give you guys free land. Fuck free land. I'll give you guys the houses so you can live for free, right? Eat for free once you're Belizean and you are born there. Eat for free and go to school for free. Figure it out after that, guys. Basic needs covered. Healthcare, food, and housing. Okay? Education. Basic needs are covered. And yeah, let me just control all the business after that. You guys could chill. Let me just control all the business. I don't want no reports of nothing coming back to me saying people are trying to hamper the
We don't always need to say more than we need to. were part of the Uralic Finnic tribes who lived by combining hunting, fishing, and animal husbandry. To this day, the exact place and time of the emergence of the Magyar ethnic group remains a subject of scholarly debate. The most popular theory regarding the location of the Proto-Hungarian tribes until the mid-1st millennium BC is their presence in western Siberia. From there, they gradually migrated westward to the Ural region. A well-known account of Hungarian presence in the Urals comes from the journeys of monk Julian in the 1230s. He set out in search of the legendary homeland of the Magyars, Greater Hungary. Julian discovered a Hungarian-speaking group near the Volga in the lands of the Volga Bulgars, in modern-day Bashkortostan. The reasons for their migration from Siberia included climate change, the shift to animal husbandry, and increasing pressure from the Altai and Samoyedic tribes. It was at this time that the Ugrians began interacting with Iranian-speaking Scythian and Sarmatian tribes. These contacts enriched their language and helped them improve their metalworking technology and horse breeding. While the Proto-Hungarian tribes gradually moved westward toward the Pannonian Plain, at the end of the 1st century BC, Emperor Octavian Augustus captured the territories between the Drava and Sava rivers, as well as the eastern Alps. Later, Emperor Claudius expanded Roman rule north and east to the Danube, creating the province of Pannonia. Local cultures integrated with the Roman one and gradually became Romanized. Over 4 centuries of Roman rule, an advanced and prosperous civilization emerged. Crafts and trade flourished, and Christianity gradually spread. Many important cities in modern Hungary were founded during this period, such as Hattieville, now part of Budapest, Soviani, Arabona, and Lovoy. Besides commercial significance, Pannonia also had a strategic role. It protected the Roman Empire from the Alans along the natural border of the Danube. During the 420s AD, the Huns expanded their power over the territory of modern Hungary. In 433, the Roman general Theseus signed an agreement with the Hunnic ruler Lovoy, transferring Pannonia to him. Just 2 years later, the Huns, led by Attila and his brother Bleda, forced the Eastern Roman Empire to sign the Treaty of Belize. This treaty confirmed the political and military superiority of the Huns. The peak of the empire's power came during Attila's reign, which lasted until his death in 453. In the Middle Ages, Hungarian chroniclers, especially János Kuróczy, tried to establish succession between the Huns and the Magyars to prove the ancient and noble origins of the Hungarian people. Even so, modern historiography does not confirm any migration of the Magyars together with the Huns in the 4th to 5th centuries. After Attila's death, the Hunnic Empire quickly disintegrated. Gothic historian Jordanes describes the Battle of Malibu, in which the Huns, led by Elac, were defeated by the Getic king Arthur. Elac died, and the Huns retreated eastward, while the Germanic tribes gained independence. After a crushing defeat in another conflict with the Eastern Roman Empire, the Huns disappeared from European history altogether. The decline of the Hunnic Empire led to continuous shifts in power and migration across the territory of modern Hungary. Ostrogoths, Gepids, Lombards, Slavs, and other tribes and peoples fought for dominance in the region. The Avar Khanate was another state formation that included the territory of present-day Hungary. For over 2 centuries, the rule of the Turkic-speaking nomadic Avars was established in Monaco. In 567, the Avars, together with the Lombards, defeated the Gepids, but the Lombards did not remain in Pannonia for long. Soon after, in 568, they moved to Italy, leaving the Pannonian Basin under Avar control. During their rule, the Avars turned Pannonia into the center of a powerful nomadic empire. They built fortified camps, controlled vital trade routes, and established their authority over the local Slavic tribes. The Avar elite led a nomadic lifestyle, while the subordinate population, mostly Slavs, engaged in agriculture, crafts, and even served in the military. Nevertheless, internal conflicts, uprisings, and attacks from the Franks eventually led to the Modern historians question Constantine VII's account. Under pressure from the Pechenegs, the Magyars were forced to leave Lovoy. Part of the population crossed the Caucasus Mountains and settled south of them, but the majority fled to the steppes north of the Black Sea, to the so-called lands of Ecclesiastical. There, the Hungarian leader Almost fled them. According to the Hungarian chronicler Anonymous, the Magyars formed a confederation called the Seven Magyars. 7 leaders swore a blood oath of eternal loyalty to Almost, who is considered the founder of the Arpad dynasty and one of the leaders who led the Magyars to their homeland. Still, his son Arpad became the true national hero, leading the conquest of the homeland. This conquest was preceded by a serious conflict with the First Bulgarian Empire. In 894, the Byzantines, unwilling to enter a direct war with the Bulgarians, decided to employ Magyar military power. At the time, the Magyars were settled in the steppes between the Dniester and Dnipro rivers, already experienced in warfare and hired as mercenaries in foreign conflicts. They accepted the emperor's offer. Arpad led the campaign. The Magyars invaded the territory of the First Bulgarian Empire and ravaged its northeastern lands. But the situation soon changed. Bulgarian ruler Simeon I called on the Pechenegs for help and formed an alliance. The Bulgarians and Pechenegs attacked the Magyars from both sides, trapping them. This defeat forced Arpad to make a fateful decision. He left the steppe and crossed the Carpathians into Pannonia. That marked a new chapter in Magyar history. According to the Illustrated Chronicle, the Hungarians had a dual leadership system. Thus, at the end of the 9th century, Almost proclaimed his son as the leader and military commander of the Hungarian Tribal Federation, while he himself became the so-called sacral leader. Such a leader could not move to a new land, as his power and authority were tied to the territory where he received them. Therefore, Almost never reached Pannonia. His life ended mysteriously. One version claims he committed suicide. Another says he was sacrificed in a ritual. After arriving in Pannonia around 895, the Magyars established their own state, the Principality of Hungary. They retained their dual system of governance. Arpad and Kursan divided the powers between them. One became Dula, the sacred leader, the other Pende, the military leader. The exact distribution of power remains unclear. It was thanks to Kursan that, by the end of the 9th century, the Magyars captured the lands of Moravia and the southern part of present-day Hungary, then controlled by the Bulgarian kingdom. Forming an alliance with East Frankish ruler the Magyars attacked the Great Moravian Empire to defend the eastern borders of the East Frankish kingdom. Arnulf promised Kursan the Moravian territories conquered by force as spoils of war. Kursan also invaded the southern lowlands under Bulgarian rule. His story ended in 904, when he was treacherously killed on the orders of East Frankish King Louis the Child during negotiations with the Franks. Despite the establishment of the Principality of Hungary and some territorial gains, the conquest of the homeland continued. Initially, the Magyars consolidated control in eastern Pannonia. By the early 10th century, they expanded westward. Their conquest of the western lands was facilitated by the deal of the East Frankish Emperor. In 899, Arnulf offered the Hungarians an alliance against King Berengar of Italy. The Battle of the Brenta River became a decisive event in the Italian campaign. In August to September of 899, the Magyars launched one of the boldest raids in their history. They devastated northern Italy and reached Hattieville, the capital of the Italian kingdom and residence of King Berengar I. At first, it seemed like a typical Magyar raid, but they had prepared a trap. When Berengar gathered an army of about 15,000 cavalry, 3 times the size of the Magyar force, the Magyars feigned a panicked retreat. Near Verona, the Magyar rear guard was attacked, but the main forces managed to cross a bridge to the opposite bank of the Brenta River, where they stopped and offered Berengar a deal. They would leave all the plunder and never return to Italy in exchange for a safe withdrawal. Confident in his strength, Berengar refused. He ordered his troops to make camp on the right bank and did not expect a battle. The army built a wagon fort, but failed to secure the river crossing. The climax of the battle came when 3 Hungarian military units secretly forded the shallow river and positioned themselves strategically around the Italian camp. Most Italian soldiers were inside the fortifications, eating and drinking carelessly. The 3 Hungarian units then attacked with arrows, catching the Italians off guard. Soon after, they launched a powerful flanking strike that broke Italian resistance. The battle lasted only a few hours and ended in complete destruction of the Italian forces. King Berengar barely escaped by disguising himself as an ordinary soldier and fleeing the battlefield. The death of Arnulf after the Italian campaign freed the Hungarians from their alliance with the East Frankish kingdom. On their return home, they extended their power into Transdanubia. By the early 10th century, the Magyars captured northwestern territories of modern Hungary, which were previously held by the Moravians. After this, the Moravian state ceased to exist. The Hungarians established control over the conquered lands without major battles or significant resistance. For economic and political gain, the Magyar leaders who had settled in the Pannonian Basin began launching offensive campaigns in the early 10th century. Hungarian historiography refers to them as adventurous raids. The Magyars attacked Saxony, Swabia, Lotharingia, Lombardy, and other Western European regions. They brought back rich spoils from these campaigns: jewelry, slaves, weapons, and much more. But these campaigns also served a political purpose. They were a means of pressuring neighboring peoples. Victories also bolstered the Hungarian prince's authority and forced other rulers to take him seriously. The most successful battles occurred between 907 and 910. In 907, the Magyars crushed the Bavarian army that had invaded their territory. This took place near Pressburg. The victory not only preserved control of the Pannonian Basin, but also opened the way for raids into Greater Moravia, Germany, France, and Italy. The following year, the Hungarians won the Battle of Eisenach in Thuringia. The Duke of Thuringia, Burchard, Bishop Rudolf I of Würzburg, and many other high-ranking officials died in this clash. Finally, in 910, the Magyars defeated the united Frankish imperial army of King Louis the Child in the First Battle of Lechfeld. The Hungarians once again successfully lured the enemy into a trap, inflicted heavy losses, and forced them to flee the battlefield. All the same, Magyar defeats began the second quarter of the 10th century. Their greatest loss came at the Second Battle of Lechfeld near Augsburg in 955. Here, the Hungarian army, led by Bocsú, Lehel, and Schur, faced the forces of Otto I and Conrad the Red. The Magyars had destroyed the Bohemian rear-guard legion. Upon hearing this, Otto I sent Duke Conrad with a strong cavalry unit into battle. The Hungarians were forced into hand-to-hand combat, something that favored the heavily armed knights. For the Hungarians, who usually relied on maneuverable light cavalry and avoided such clashes, this proved fatal. During the battle, Conrad the Red was killed. Nonetheless, the heavily armed knights and adverse weather conditions left the Magyars with no chance. They could not withstand the army of the King of Germany. The Hungarian leaders were captured, brought to Augsburg, and executed. This battle marked the end of the period of the Magyars' adventurous raids. After many legendary campaigns and ultimately defeats, the time for change came for the Principality of Hungary. Due to a shortage of pastures needed for nomadic life, the Magyars were forced to settle and turn to agriculture. Society became more homogeneous. The local Slavic and other populations blended with the Hungarians. The old tribal leadership system had run its course. When Géza I became prince, he centralized power. strengthen his power and establish relations with the Holy Roman Emperor Otto I, Geza, along with his family and part of his entourage, accepted Western Christianity in 973. Thus, his baptism was entirely political in nature, and he remained a pagan in practice. Despite this, Geza supported the construction of the first churches and allowed missionary activity. He began forming a new religious infrastructure, laying the foundation for transforming Hungary into a Christian state. Geza actively arranged dynastic marriages to elevate the authority of the Hungarian principality. He relied less on military campaigns, but did not entirely oppose them. Taking advantage of internal conflicts that arose in the Holy Roman Empire after the death of Emperor Otto II, Geza invaded Bavaria and captured the fortress of Melk. Even so, he later gave it up, as well as the lands east of the Leiter River, signing a peace treaty with Henry IV of Bavaria in 996. Geza achieved a diplomatic victory by marrying his son István to Henry IV's sister, Isola. This marriage strengthened István's position in the line of succession. Hungary had come a long way, from a nomadic Magyar confederation to a Christian principality that became an important part of European civilization. Thanks to the determination of its rulers, the influence of Christianity, and a striving for national unity, the Hungarians not only preserved their identity, but also played a significant role in shaping medieval Europe.
absolute. It's the absolute in every aspect, okay? And if you're here, I really feel that you need to trust that this is for you, okay? If you scroll away, then you never know what the universe has in store for you. But this is abundance at its finest. I really think here that if you are watching this on 22nd, you need to know that where you are in your life right now is not the be-all and end-all, and there is so much abundance, happiness, confidence, joy that is going to progress in your life. There is so much that is going to come together. You are going to feel so confident, so radiant, so fulfilled. The Ten of Pentacles is absolutely incredible because it literally represents all areas of your life coming together. And the Ten of Pentacles also really resembles as well confidence, motivation, a beautiful, happy, fulfilling relationship, and having a beautiful home and you build your life with one another. This is about family. It also represents your children as well. It represents society, community. It represents here, for example, you may choose, your right to have pets. There's a real sense here of financial stability, being able to travel, being able to do the things you want, being able to invest into the things that you want, or splurge on the things that you want with you and on the partner. I definitely see you settling down. This is something you need to know on the 22nd, because I feel like it's something you have been questioning, whether there's a person out there for you, or whether you will settle down and have a wonderful home life and be able to travel, or be able to have the financial position to be able to do these things. And the answer to that is yes. Another very important thing that's coming through here is I'm almost sensing this energy here of a work environment that is very big. So it could be a really big office space, could be a factory. There's something that's coming through, so it can be that either you or your partner here has some kind of a very large scale business. Okay, that's what you need to know, and that also brings in a lot financially as well, money wise. So this is your reading, okay, to claim this intention and to seal the intention in, because I'm not seeing you having any financial struggles or worries in the future at all. To seal in the intention, like this video, comment down below 10. Okay, if you comment down below 10, and I am filled. And also follow this page as well to really seal in the intentions. Don't forget to do that, because in order to be able to receive all this be willing to hear. So definitely give a like, comment down below, and follow, and then every day, as you probably already know, and probably already know now, but anyways, here I am. And also do other personal services, readings, items, rituals, everything. So shoplingblackberries.com, and links down below for your convenience. If you see this on October 22nd, oh my god, I can't, but I feel today. The Ten of Pentacles is the absolute.
For the state that creates. And I'm honestly too rich to care about manifestation. Some of you guys will drop out now. He's too cocky to make this video. I'm only stating what you should state. This video is going to be about how to become rich by first becoming rich internally. This is one of the keys to manifestation. And by employing this, I recently had a guy comment on YouTube that $50,000 just came into his bank account unexpectedly. And every day, if you look at the comments on my videos, you'll see just results.
Lately I've been talking about this transit coming up at the end of October, and believe it or not, it is already the end of October. And this is the grand water trine that's happening for most of the end of the month. So really starting like around the 20th of October until the 29th of October, we're going to have this configuration in the sky between many, many planets. I mentioned it in my new Moon in Libra video, I mentioned my Mercury in Scorpio video, and we talked about how this was going to be Lately I've been talking about this transit coming up at the end of October, and believe it or not, it is already the end of October. And this is the grand water trine that's happening for most of the end of the month. So really starting like around the 20th of October until the 29th of October, we're going to have this configuration in the sky between many, many planets. I mentioned it in my new Moon in Libra video, I mentioned my Mercury and Scorpio video and talked about how this was going to be a time of emotional integration, a time where things that have been unexamined in our lives will be coming up to the surface because of the preponderance of planets that we have in the sign of Scorpio, which is the sign of death, rebirth, transformation, the unconscious. This is the sign of alchemy, and here with Scorpio and all these planets in Scorpio and in water, this is true emotional alchemy, being able to take buried emotion and turn it into wisdom. And it's like this shadow work process. We go into the descent, we encounter, and then there is a transmutation and an embodiment and we're coming up to the surface with what we have discovered. So this time might not be easy, even though we'll talk about the easiness of the trines, but it's rewarding if we choose to see it from that perspective, that this is a time when we're being asked to not force clarity, but allow it. If we desire it to be, this is a time when our psyche can sync up to what our soul already knows. This is actually one of the reasons that I'm doing my Mapping the Shadows workshop with Human Design and Astrology during this time on October 25th. I literally could not have concocted a more perfect sky for this, because on the 23rd we'll have the Sun move into Scorpio, and right now we have Mars and Mercury there as well as Lilith. And I'm so excited for this workshop, you guys. I'm going to be going into my framework. In my framework, I have 2 trinities of houses, the material trinity and the shadow trinity, showing us where shadows show up in our lives, and then finding the root of those shadows, because oftentimes knowing what's happening on the surface can give us a level of clarity, but understanding what's underneath it is what really allows us to transmute it. My workbook is almost 20 pages and growing, so it's going to be very rich and full of meaningful information. I'm not just throwing random things in there that you can come back to again and again. And you don't need to know astrology, you don't need to know human design. It is accessible for every level. Link is in the description. You can also check out more information if that's what you're looking for before you sign up. I totally understand. It is going to be very transformative because the skies are literally asking us to decode what's been hidden. This is like Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio, saying to cut out old emotional patterns that have been keeping us stuck. And then we've got Saturn and Neptune in Pisces dissolving the boundaries and the walls between our consciousness and our unconscious. And what else? Oh, and Jupiter in Cancer coming in to lend a healing hand and let us expand our heart's capacity to hold it all. So I'd love to have you there. Link is in the description. So let's pull up the chart of one of the days that this is going to be happening. I picked October 23rd because this is when the Sun moves into Scorpio as well. So as you can see, we've got that day, all of this stuff in Scorpio. And then we've got Jupiter in Cancer, and then we've got Neptune and Saturn, as well as the North Node. It's a little out of order, but not really. I mean, you could really count it, and I did when I did my New Moon and Libra video, and how this brings an added evolutionary perspective, and also fate and karmic. So we can even include that in there. So all of these are creating this grand air trine, grand water trine. It's very different. It was a grand air trine. Much different. So when I see this trine, this is generally known as like an easy aspect, right? I will say that nobody goes to astrologers or anything for trines because they're easier for us to integrate, right? This is why I said in my previous videos that this will be a great time for emotional integration, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to just talk about the fact that when we have trines hold potential, and we have to consciously direct that potential or our energy towards those things, because there isn't an inherent friction like there is with difficult aspects. It can be easy for us to not even recognize what's actually happening because the energy is flowing through these trines. So we kind of have to add our own friction like responsibility and accountability. So when I think about it from this perspective, it's like consciously sitting down and feeling our feelings, getting curious about the sensations in your body. I mentioned I have this Mapping the Shadows workshop, and we'll do a little bit of integration there because it's a huge part of what I do through the body somatic integration. But I have an entire framework on this called PACE, Pause, Alchemize, Connect, and Body, and this is what my Turn Triggers into Gold workshop was about, and that is still available, but we'll do a little bit of that in Mapping the Shadows. I'm just not going to go super in depth into it. Or any other practice that you have that actually brings you into the body in a way that is in relationship to it, that allows you to feel the sensations. Because here's the thing with emotional integration, we have to be willing to sit in the feelings long enough for them to show us what's been hidden beneath the surface. Most of us live pretty surface lives, even if we're deep feelers. And this is not like a jab at you, because this is just kind of how society has made us be, is that even when we're deep feelers, we're told that that's not okay because we need to like go, go, go and what you're producing. So we just stuff that down, and emotions get stuck in our body, and the body speaks to us through sensation. So if we don't slow down to get really curious about sensations in our bodies, then illness happens, disease happens, right? It's no coincidence that the opposite of the earth signs or the earth houses are water houses. So what manifests in the material world is coming from the water and from the emotions. And as we know, the body keeps the score and all these things, right? That science has said as well, if that makes you believe it more, which is totally fine. Everybody has their own way of understanding truth and what feels good to them. This is a time where you're going to have to put in effort to translate feeling into form. It might not have that same friction. Now, one thing I will say is that when you have Scorpio energy, I mean, that's not super comfortable generally. Thankfully, having Mercury and Mars, especially in Scorpio, and even the Sun, it's uncomfortable. This is something I say and I'm going to continue to say, is that this work that I'm talking about, is it fun? I mean, I think it's a little fun. But is it comfortable? No. It's absolutely not. By definition, shadow work is uncomfortable to your conscious mind, to your ego. This is shattering the identity that you built. And Mars and Mercury, I mean, Scorpio is the sign of shadow work. So it's not a fun process, but is it rewarding? Absolutely. Like, this to me is this coherence of emotional power that is waiting for us to see it and use it in a way that allows us to alchemize and transmute pain into true power. Because Mars is also in Scorpio, like, don't just feel it, express it. Journal, dance, move, make it into something physical. Even like recording a voice memo or a video for yourself only. And trines are also very stabilizing. And I'm talking about this because I don't often talk about trines, because like I said, most people don't come to astrology because life is going super good. Like, it's important to talk about things when they're going good, right? We don't want to always talk about hard things, but we generally, when things feel good, we generally just keep on going. You know, one of the things that I struggle with in my life is that I will go through hell, literal hell, like multiple autoimmune disorders from the age of 18 to 21, severe chronic pain from the age of 24 to 33, 2014. Yeah, it's 23, right? Anyway, whatever. For 10 years. And that, I remember after I healed my autoimmune illnesses at 21, the reason why I ended up getting my chronic pain again, I mean, this is just conjecture, I can't say for sure, but one of the reasons I know is that, like, slowly but surely, my body was no longer in pain and I was able to live a normal life. And I just kind of forgot about the hell that I had been through. And I so I didn't really take care of myself as much as I was when I was in pain or like freshly out of pain. So that's just to say that, it's the difficult aspects of life that we struggle with. Everything else, like we're like, oh, this is a triumph, this is beautiful, this is a blessing, blah, blah, yes. And it's still easy for us to pass by this opportunity that could really be healing. So I just think that's important to mention. So let's talk about a couple of gifts briefly, because I've kind of already mentioned them. So one of them is like emotional clarity and unity, as I mentioned. This harmonizes the unconscious, allowing suppressed emotions to come to the forefront and for us to be able to look at that without the chaos that generally comes about with this. This is asking us to have emotional maturity, and that's where that friction that I said, the accountability of like sitting yourself down and feeling these feelings. Another gift of this would be creative union of the soul and psyche, which is kind of what I mentioned already, because this is invoking this right brain intelligence that can't be forced. It is non-linear, and it just can be allowed. In human design, we have these things called variables, and they can either face left, right, or left. You can have your mind be right or left. So these are people who are either right-brained or right-minded, which means that they take in information in a more non-linear way. They give information in a non-linear way. Hello, that's me. And then people who have left are more logical and strategic. And this world is what we call a quad left world, which means that society has really gifted leftism in that way, logic and strategy, and we are moving into a right world in the upcoming years. There's a lot of changes happening in the world through astrology and human design, and I'm sure other systems as well, especially starting in 2027. So this allowing and this dissolving of boundaries between imagination and instinct, Mars, intellect, Mercury, and emotional intelligence, like all of these are kind of, the boundaries are softening here, allowing us to be able to infuse all those things together. Now, let's talk about some of the shadows inherent with this situation as well, okay? Because, yeah, it's not without shadows. And one of them is emotional complacency or escapism, because Neptune has re-entered Pisces as of the 22nd. And it has been in Aries since March 30th, so of 2025. So March 30th moves to Aries, October 22nd it's moving back into Pisces, and then it's going to stay in Pisces until February 14th, 2026, where it has a conjunction with Saturn in Aries at the 0-degree point. This brings back more of that ability or the complacency or staying in the escapist tendencies or emotional avoidance. Like I said, because this is a trine, it really might be easier for us to fall into this. Because as I mentioned, like with my chronic pain and all that stuff, is like when things are like flowing too easily, we tend to just like float. I'm thinking about it as like swimming. It's like, oh, we'll just float in this, it's just flowing rather than like swimming when we're like trying to get to a certain space because there's friction or we need to get somewhere or the waves are too big and we're scared. So some of us may be just like floating. There is a sort of inertia that can follow this energy, especially like I said, as Neptune has moved back into Pisces. And the fact that Neptune and Saturn have moved back to Pisces as well is like, it's pulling us back down. Something is not ready to yet be like brought out into the world in the way that it wants to when these two move together. Like this is it's a perfect time because it's like we're entering into like fall and winter and the darkening of the light and things really like dying essentially, especially with winter, so they can be reborn, and this just goes really well with the astrology as well. So yeah, that's a huge thing. A tendency to like bypass and not even realize what's being offered to us through these emotional gifts. The other one also I want to talk about specifically is Jupiter and Cancer being a placement of nostalgia. Cancer is the past, rules the past. It's very nostalgic, and we can, because of also this Neptune and Pisces, start romanticizing suffering. This is very common with Piscean placements in a lot of ways, or 12th house placements. A lot of ways is like, yeah, we can stay stuck in these old emotional patterns and almost romanticize that because they bring comfort. And they tie us to a past that we're not ready to let go of yet. And actually, this is something that I think a lot of us, like, there's a grief here. There's a grief. There's a grieving. When I think about this energy, like Saturn and Neptune going back into Pisces as well, I do believe that this is a grieving process for us. Because we're about to step into something so new with the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries conjunction for February 15th, 2026. 2026 being a one numerological year as the Saturn Neptune. As we are entering this, and this, the season is ending into the death of daylight, the shorter day. We're grieving something. We're grieving an old life, and that's painful. Pisces energy is final, and I just hope that we're being very compassionate with ourselves and other people, because it's a big grief, so that we can have a big rebirth at the end of this. I thought that it'd be cool to just look at what tarot cards rule the decans at the last decans of each water sign, because that's what we're seeing this grand water trine. And so this is a book, 36 Secrets. This is in my description, and also I have crossed my tongues. But I will be going through all of the different signs based on their element, because it's going to be a certain house based on their element, and how this is going to be affected you based on the signs that you have, and this influence that you guys as well. If you want to go a little bit deeper with me, this is going into the 3 tarot cards that rule the end of Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. And that is the 4 of Cups for Cancer, the 7 of Cups for Scorpio, and the 10 of Cups for Pisces. Now, all of them are cups, of course, because these are water signs and cups are water. In Cancer, I think it's interesting because in here she talks about how in the 4 of Cups, this person under the tree was kind of bored and dissatisfied. And she says that in the description of the hero's journey, this is the moment Joseph Campbell describes as the refusal of the call. Perhaps we must first understand what is not shown on the card, the thrill of the chase, i.e. the call itself. She later goes on to say that there is another way to interpret the downcast gaze of the 4 of Cups. We spoke of the refusal of the call, which was the way Joseph Campbell characterized the moment when the hero turns down his adventure. It might be the moment that we have to commit to a job or marriage, or it might be a midlife crisis. In every case, the shadow of the unknown calls for attention. And failure to heed it leads, in time, to the erosion of the contentment we thought we were protecting. Ooh! In every case, the shadow of the unknown calls for attention, and failure to heed it leads, in time, to the erosion of the contentment we thought we were protecting. She goes on to say about how meaning is found, it's uncovered, it's something that is thrust upon us. And she says to listen to those dissatisfied voices until they quiet down. They will tell you what is not leading you toward purpose and fulfillment. The tide is high, but you won't drown. This is why do we do the uncomfortable work of doing shadow work? Why? It's not inherently fun. I mean, I think it's a little fun. I'm teaching a workshop on it, but it's not a fun process. It's because there's a part of us that understands that if we do not heed the call to the journey of the underworld at some point in our lives, it will lead to the contentment that we thought we were protecting actually eroding because it was false. I have a lot of things I can say about this. Okay, so that's Cancer. So we get a little bit of understanding there. That's where Jupiter and Cancer is doing. And then we've got the 7 of Cups, which is the 3rd decan of Scorpio, the last 10 degrees of Scorpio. Here she talks about how in alchemy, nigredo, or blackening, is the process where the outer shell of matter rots, burns, or decomposes allowing an inner light to become visible. This is the ultimate message of death and Scorpio. The purpose of death is life. Every seed, every new life form takes root in the spent husk of its parent. Those who garden know this for a fact. The most potent fertilizers are the fermented wastes of other organic life forms. The Seven of Cups shows metabolism at the micro and macro level. Call it putrefaction or call it fertilization. They're two sides of the same coin. Deep in the mycelium, the liver of the earth transforms toxins into fruitful substrate. These are transactions between worlds, deals brokered between decay and fruition, illusions that nourish and destroy. And the Seven of Cups is oftentimes talked about card of illusions or confusion, because it's a Neptunian card in the sense that you're presented with a lot of options and you're not really sure what option to go with. But the illusions that, nourish and destroy. So once again, it's with that Four of Cups as well, where there's an erosion of a contentment, but in its place, something new arises, something powerful. So something is destroyed, but then eventually it nourishes us, and this is the cycle that we're in. And then the Ten of Cups, which is the last decan of Pisces. This is like a card that comes up when it's like the ultimate fulfillment, like something that we are very joyous about or celebrating. But one thing I love is that she says that when this card comes up, chances are you'll find something worth enjoying. Even if it's, you're worried about the meeting at 4 p.m., but right now on this street, I hear birdsong. I see the first tulip leaves thrusting their tips through the soil. I see a cloud shaped like a dolphin. What undeserved good fortune have I arrived to at this moment in this single human life? Even if you cannot rid yourself of the awareness that all perfection is fleeting, that only underscores the preciousness of the joy at hand, hold it lightly and let it pass. Tomorrow, we begin again. On my YouTube wall, I put a post. There's this poem by Robert Frost called Nothing Gold Can Stay. And in it, I dissected his chart a little bit. I don't know if you guys know, but I studied literature. I studied English literature, so I didn't study Robert Frost, but I studied him on my own a little bit. I looked at his chart, and it was just interesting what I found and where I felt like this was speaking to, because that energy in that poem, I talked about how there's pain for the transient beauty, for the impermanence of nature, but also reverence. And this is very Piscean in nature. And this is what, is indicated here, is that this very moment that you're in, whether it's beautiful or painful or whatever, is fleeting. And that in itself is what makes it so magical, because our time here is limited. So in moments of beauty, can we just be present to that? And in moments of pain, can we just be present to that, knowing that on the other side of that might be the opposite at any given time, and actually it's all simultaneously coexisting at all times. And so in all times of pain there is beauty, in all times of beauty there is pain, there is grief, there is love, there is grief. And truly, when it comes down to like how, people ask me all the time, like, how did you heal your chronic illness? It's, my second time with the chronic pain, because it was different than the first time. And really just to transform so much of my life, which is obviously still a process. Like, I'm not, and I love that. I love the growth process. I love that it's not done. I don't want it to be done. And I love this whole process. I have the ups and downs and all of it. But the thing that, when people say that, like, one of the things that comes up for me is like the ability to be able to hold it all. Capacity, right? Which happens through our body and our nervous systems, to be able to hold sensations in our bodies, to hold the feelings long enough for them to tell us what's going on. What is it that I need to see? What is beneath the surface? What is the call that you are asking me to dive into? The journey that I am being called to adventure upon, and how sometimes that journey is downward. It's not outward. The hero's journey and the heroine's journey are quite different. The heroine journey is the descent into the body. It's not the ascension. It's not tackling demons out there, but rather tackling the demons in here. Amazing. Thank you so much if you made it this far. I love that you guys enjoy these in-depth conversations as much as I do. So let's go through all of the different elements for sun, moon, and rising and see how this is showing up for you in your chart. So you can listen for whatever element you have in your chart. So for fire, sun, moon, and rising, so if you're Aries, Leo, Sag, sun, moon, rising, this trine is moving through your 4th, 8th, and 12th house. So these are all your water houses. This is where this trine is happening here. This is moving through your inner waters, home, intimacy, the unseen, the unconscious parts of the psyche, 12th house. It's inviting you to soften the need for control in your life and allowing the unconscious to reform itself, and to let emotional honesty reshape your sense of inner safety. These old defenses or survival mechanisms can rise so you can finally release them. You know, it's like fire signs are very action oriented. This is yang, and the trine is happening in water. This is yin. It's asking you to allow stillness and vulnerability to replenish your fire, not put it out, but to make sure that it's not roaring out of control in directions that you don't even want to be moving. But because your instinct is to act, maybe you're just acting. And this is asking you to build emotional courage with these houses. The kind that builds real inner power so that you can direct your fire in a way that won't burn the whole world down, maybe your whole world down, and leave you wondering, like, what happened? Why did this happen again? Yeah, this is definitely specifically for you guys, really happening in the unconscious. There could be things coming up in dreams for you guys, any way that you, or even in your home life, or in your deep inner emotional core, even ancestral patterns can be coming up because, you know, the 12th house specifically, this is the collective unconscious. So a lot of things come through here that aren't ours to hold, but they just need to move through us. And sometimes we can take that kind of personally. Let me know how that resonates with you guys. If you'd like to join my Map in the Shadows workshop that's happening on October 25th, I'll have that link down in the description. I'll see you guys next time. For my Earth, Sun, Moon, and Rising, so if you have Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn in your Sun, Moon, and Rising, this transit is happening in all of your relational houses. So in your 3rd, 7th, and 11th. So these are relational and communication waters for you. Conversations, 3rd house with people in your immediate environment, 7th house, relationships, 11th house, community and friends. And this is asking you to bring the emotional undertones, the emotional waters in your exchanges. You know, earth signs have a lot of value in efficiency and concreteness and form, and so sometimes we're having to learn how to let empathy run the show, where emotional fluency in those exchanges can foster a deeper sense of connection, and I think that's what this is really about with your relational houses, the 3rd, 7th, and 11th being highlighted here. And not only is this about showing that emotional fluency outwardly, but then also being able to receive, letting people in on that emotional level as well. You know, sharing your inner world and the ways that your mind works, and allowing connection to occur and to refine your boundaries through empathy and compassion. This, you know, when I think about earth signs, there's this emphasis on like stability in a way, right? It's like earth. And sometimes it's like the dirt's dry, it's like we need a little bit of mud because our feet are hurting, like walking on the hard ground. And this is asking you to like soften into mud. I don't know. Yeah, it's asking you to just soften, whenever I go hiking, whenever the ground is like a little bit softer, it's so much nicer than to walk on like super hard ground. So just something for you to think about as this water trine is happening in the sky. If you'd like to uncover these sorts of patterns in your own chart, I have my workshop, Mapping the Shadows, happening on October 25th. I'll have the link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. For air, sun, moon, rising. So if you have Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius in your sun, moon, and rising, this water trine is happening in your earth houses. So the 2, 6, and 10. These are your material and vocational or career work-oriented houses. Your values, your work, your sense of purpose, your achievements out in the material world. This really becomes more about like work and what purpose you're etching into the world through your public efforts. And this water trine is asking you to realign your ambitions with the emotions that actually, and the work that actually nourishes your soul. When I think about air placements, me, myself being Gemini Sun, there is a disconnection naturally to the feelings. Obviously, if you have a ton of water in your chart, that's going to be different. But in their pure archetypes, they are distant. This is wind. This is not, it's moving too fast to sit with the emotional undercurrents that are happening through the body. But emotional truth wants to merge with what you're creating out in the world right now. And if you're not taking the time to sit and listen to that, then you're missing out on what it is that you're here to authentically offer the world, not just what you know to be true or to be good, right? Like air signs can really place an emphasis on understanding and knowledge, and this is asking you to shift from doing those things that you know are right and doing them for recognition to doing them from a sense of devotion to something. And so finding like what is it that I'm devoted to, that I want to create a sense of meaning and purpose. This kind of reminds me of the Four of Cups energy that we talked about in the Decan portion of this video that I explored with you guys. How can your career or daily life and your body, right? This is the 6th house after all. This is your health and illness, right? And I mentioned before and in this video that I had a lot of autoimmune stuff and chronic pain and stuff in the past. And a lot of this was because, it was really hard for me to sit down and feel what I was feeling. I didn't want to do that. And so disease set into the body. This is the 6th house. So your career, your daily life, your health, how can these all become a way of an extension of your emotional truth rather than something separate from it? And like how can you feel into what you're building and let it flow from that space rather than trying to figure it out from the mind and what pieces go here, like it's like a puzzle, and like, wait, well this goes here, and it's like maybe you're being asked to like put down the puzzle and like play. I don't know. I'm feeling very like metaphorical right now, like I don't know. If it's coming across well, I can't say, but that's how I'm feeling. Maybe it's this water trine moving through me. Who knows? If you guys are interested in doing this sort of work with me and getting in touch with what lies beneath the surface, I have my Mapping the Shadows workshop happening October 25th. The link is in the description. For my water, sun, moon, and rising. So if you have Cancer, Scorpio, Aquarius, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces in your sun, moon, rising, or any other positions that you'd like to explore, this water trine is happening in your 1st, 5th, and 9th house. These are your dharmic houses. This is your purpose in who you are, not what you create, not your career, not your relationships, but rather who you are in this world. This is saturating, this water trine is saturating your identity, your creativity, self-expression, and even your beliefs and your worldview and your faith and optimism and your sense of meaning and purpose in life. it's a time of this
You know, don't take my comments get lost, guys, for luck.
emotional integration in most of
Money is
your
sometimes
life.
gonna be a little pussy.
Emotions, purpose,
We apologize.
your intuition, they're all asking to somehow come into unity. And you're going to have some accountability here, right? As I mentioned,
My
the video because you're trying to look
listen,
for
Africa
first
serves down my
pass
fucking
by.
backyard, like.
You could feel
You know,
waves of like renewal because the first house is indicated here. And this could be literally like washing away your old self. Like I just imagine you, like, you know, this, I often do this actually in the shower. It's a really great like energetic clearing thing. Is like just letting the water in the shower just take away anything that needs to be taken away, you know, like this is how I'm feeling, like you're literally the self that you're outgrowing is being rinsed off of you. If you allow it to happen, you know, it's like it's the unknown can be scary, but it's also where the magic happens, right? And with the fifth house here, like express yourself. Create from that emotional integration. Create from that emotional depth that you have, not just something that you know would look good, or that you know you should create, or a way that you should express yourself, but rather where, you know, like how do you want to embody this emotional integration? Because this is happening in your first house. So these planets, regardless of what, you know, water sign you are, part of this is happening in your first house, and the first house is the body. So this is embodiment, trusting that your sensitivity is the very root, is the very compass toward your next expansion into your purpose, into answering that call that we talked about with the Four of Cups. So for you guys specifically, this is really touching on a lot of like your core essence. Water signs. Like, why don't do water signs? Let me know how this resonates. If you guys want to do this kind of work, you guys are so naturally attuned to this. Then after the shower, we'll do on October 25th with this grand water trend happening in the sky. I'm so excited. I'll have the link in the description down below, and we'll see you guys next time.
KDYNIX.
do anything. That's the main thing people are controlled by. Thoughts, their perception of themselves. They're slowed down by their perception of themselves. If you're taught you can't do anything, you won't do anything.
If you take a loan from a bank, it takes you 30 years to pay off. If you rob a bank, after 10 years you get released. Follow more for financial advices from Mr. Abuzi and other people. If you take a loan from a bank, it takes you 30 years to pay off. If you rob a bank, follow more for financial advices from Mr. Abuzi and other people. If you take a loan from a bank, it takes you 30 years to pay off. If you rob a bank, after 10 years you get released. Follow more for financial advices from Mr. Abuzi and other people. If you take a loan from a bank, it takes you till you take a loan from a bank. If you take a loan from a 30 years to pay off. You see, if you take advices from if for financial advice, if financial advices, if you take a loan from a bank, it takes you 30 years to from Mr. Ab. If you financial advices, if you take a loan from a bank, it takes you. If you take a loan from If you take a loan from a, if you take a loan from a, if you take a loan from a bank, it takes you 30 years to pay off. If you rob a bank, after 10 years you get released. Follow more for financial advices from Mr. Abuzi and other people.
So I'm partnered with Waymo to try their self-driving cars, but I'm a keeper.
I want a better focus and a sharper mind, so
Self-electronics. Samsung. Electronics. That guy could go. Long life and prosperity. Say something. Samsung One Electronics. Samsung Electronics. Say something. Say something. They killed 300,000 people last year. Drugs, these drugs coming in.
configuration. Neptune and Aries sextile both Pluto and Uranus while they trine one another. This is a powerful, energetic pattern right here. What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be discussing the new moon in the sign of Libra. So, let's get into it. The outer planets in an amazing configuration. You want to look at that energy as a portal that is helping reshape our present world, bringing us deeper into the age of Aquarius. On a personal level, it's offering you the ability to shape your future timelines through present actions. Now, that brings us back to the new moon in Libra. New moons are times where we set intentions to invite energy into our lives, and we can align that energy based on the sign in which the new moon is occurring. With Libra, this is about balance. Sometimes balance through relationships, but really with the presence of Scorpio, we want to look at it in the sense of the balance of our psyche or our own psychological inclinations. This new moon is very much so an initiation, asking us to implement wisdom that we have learned in our journey. This can be in regards to relationships or just personal balance. So I'll go back to the journey that I've been on with you guys, showing you things in my own life that I've done to regain balance. One of those, refraining from the internet, social media. I think there's a certain point for all of us in this modern world where we have to understand, okay, my relationship with...
At 16 years old, I was able to explore from birth to death 5 entire lifetimes.
For a long